I'm going to attempt to resurrect the first artwork that I did, done with a palette knife. So I'm going to just work on this artwork to see if I can finish it off. I'm now going to start working in the foreground of this artwork. I've actually looked at it for a couple of days and decided what I need to do to finish this artwork off. So I'm going to pick up a green and put some Australian red gold in it, so it makes a bit of a yellowy green with an orange tint to it. Dry the brush, and I'll start to work down through here and just get some trees just with a rough brush. So dry the brush, just let the brush sit down on the paper, start at different heights, different colors. I'll just pick up some more paint so that will change again. And so that changes the color coming through here. So I'm just going to get a straight sort of line through there, some taller trees as they come forward. There could be a different shaped tree in through there, just something that's a little bit different. And so that they're not the same coming down through there. And that will give me a level that I'm sort of coming back over the foreground. And as they come forward, I'll pick up a little bit more paint and get a little bit darker, with a little bit more orange in it. Come down lower again, back in behind that section there. So that'll give me something of a layer through there. Then I'll add some branches to that with one of the liners, with the fine liner, I think. Usually I work upside down, but I'm going to try and work the right way up just so that it makes it clearer for you. But I would normally turn this upside down. So some of the branches through here, that's got too much paint on the brush, so I'll just wet the brush and start again. Leave what I just did and come back to it in a minute. I find that very, very difficult to do that way because I'm painting against myself, which I'd like you, if you can, learn to paint upside down. That's very strong. Put some other branches in with it, just so that there's something in through there. The one that I actually did too dark, I'll just dry the brush off and just touch that, just to soften it through there. Now that leads us down to here, and so that leads us into the artwork. Just a couple of small trees down through there. Don't want them all to be like straight down that way, so I'll change it and put a darker one just down in here. And I haven't got any of the orange in it at the moment. I'll just get a darker one in here, just something darker, just to break that up. So you can't actually see what you're looking at, but you see a change in the trees. You see the top of it not looking so good, so just change it a fraction. All right, so that sort of brings something in through there that we're working back in through. It could come back through here. I'm just going to put a little bit of purple in those trees as well, because I've got so much purple in the background. I'm just going to add some purple just in through there, just in shape, just coming in through, and I'm coming out to there because it was just cut off a little bit too much. So you can't see what's actually there, but that will have a line underneath it. And then I can come forward with some of the taller trees could have branches coming, trunks coming further down, just sort of dragging them down in places just to muck up that line. So I don't have just a straight line. It looks like there's actually grasses or something in front of it. If you can do that, if you can get a rough brush down, that will make it change as well. So anything you do with the brush can make something happen that makes it far more exciting than when you first paint it. So now I've got some greenery coming in through there, so I need to come forward into the foreground. So what I'm going to do there is start to draw something up. It doesn't work so well if it's just put on there without any thought or whatever. So some of these parts that I actually did originally, that can come into being a rock. So I can come out further on this area there. That can be an area that's another area out through there. So this can be sitting up in front, but the way to create that is to paint behind it, not on it. If you're painting behind, you're just getting darker and darker through your paper. You're not really achieving shape or anything else. So in through here will be some grass trees. So I'll just get the idea of where they'd be. There'll be a grass tree down there. And so I'll just sort of keep my finger on that and start in that area there and bring in some darks, which would be a dark green, which is Winsor yellow plus indethrin, or just the ultramarine, just a little bit darker if you don't have anything darker on your palette. And so that will go into there, and that will be the start of a grass tree. So that's just the bottom section of it. Now I'll get one of the Japanese brushes, the Chinese brushes that you can get, and just waft that out very, very lightly so that it comes up at the top. Just got a bit of water on the brush, and so that'll just sort of get something happening in that darker area. And then it will have some light ones on top. So I've just picked up yellow and just use some yellow, some Winsor yellow in that to get just some light back over that. The stronger that paint is, the more you'll see light in that bush. And so that'll stay. So people think you can't paint over something with watercolour, but you can. So where I come behind the other rocks, I'll pick up the larger brush and put some colour behind it. So I'll just go into some darker browns, just some burnt sienna and ultramarine. That does just a dark. And just come up round here, and that will sort of start to get another area. So I can make other areas in here by putting dark behind it, but then taking out this back edge of the paint. So just take that out until it disappears. Take it out the other way, get rid of that. Take it out the other way, and now there's another section that's appeared. That could have grasses on it as well. If I use that brush again and just finish that off and make it into some grasses or just something rough in behind there, it'll still look like it's on this section. But now I'm dividing it into background, middle ground, foreground, and start to work through here. So if I need any more rocks or change any of these rocks, straighten any of it out, I can come in there with a little bit of burnt sienna and just come in through here and find some of those areas. That will just find me that area through there. And so now I'm sort of defining different areas. I can see that that worked there. It hasn't worked on that edge, and the reason it hasn't worked on that edge is because it's just a straight edge. So if I wet above it, it'll make it run and make it soften. So now you can see that section. So I'll come back in with the burnt sienna down further, have a look at areas here. I can take that out. That can be another rock through there. That's not dark enough, so I need a little bit of ultramarine in it, and that goes in there. And so now I'm just painting along this area here to get some land. I'll leave the gap in the middle and work from each side out so that I've got something else happening. This will come through here. It's just dark underneath that. Don't really care much about that. Want to take the bottom off that section, take some of that out and put a new section on there that actually changes it now and gives me a top and a bottom to it so that I can actually bring the grass tree down into that and put some darks in the grass tree with ultramarine and burnt sienna. That'll give me a black sort of a colour, something that will give me some depth down in here and anchor that to the ground. Just let that go. It forms something else. Don't know what, but it just does. So I won't even try and explain that. So now I've got the formation of a part of a grass tree here, but there's probably a couple of sections to that grass tree. So I'm going to bring in some of the darker green and just come into that there and make that into two sections in the grass tree. That'll just sit in behind there and make that look like there's a divider between that so that you'll get sections coming out. So coming back to this one here, that's not a grass tree yet. It doesn't look like anything. Winsor yellow, ultramarine and indethrin, and come in behind that in behind here, find that rock there, there's another rock there, and just have that green in behind. Put some yellow in on top of it, put some yellow up through here, and use the brush, the Chinese brush, to actually just get some of the shape into that. Just drag it through. Now, I haven't got any colour at the top, so I'm going to pick up the green on the brush and come back the other way and just get some that are coming out straight. Don't do too much to it, and then I can get the rest of it on later. Come in behind it here to come down behind that section there, just to get some colour behind that rock. Take that down into here, so you've just got the green coming through. And so now it's starting to form something that's happening through here. I'll finish up over the other side here by getting a dark in it. I'll use burnt sienna and ultramarine to get some dark in this corner. That'll just give me something in through there, maybe divide that section up through there, just some dark paint. And now I'm coming back for the dark green, Winsor yellow and indethrine. That'll get me a dark green in through here. Just get that in. I'll make this one taller, so I'll come up higher with the green. Just got some gaps in it so it doesn't look just straight paint put in there. Back to the yellow. Put the yellow in on top. Add some more dark green with water. And that should be enough to drag that out. Just go slowly. Now, because I did that with the brush, it looks like there's part of a grass tree growing out there. So that's made something really well and truly interesting on the way. That can come out. Okay, so that's just the bottom of grass trees. I've got a mark on the paper here that I'm not that interested in. So what to do with that mark through here? It can have just branches. It could have something in behind there that's been a bit of a stump or something like that that's got something off it. So I can define that later. So I'm going to come over this side and I'm just going to start putting greens in. Just green, just something out into that corner. I'll go into the back corner with some purple, just colour. And this is where you start to paint. Up until now, I've been planning and doing bits and pieces, but now I'm starting to paint. And that's where you leave what you're thinking about and just naturally start to paint. It either works or it doesn't. At the end of the day, it's a piece of paper. And I know, I do respect the fact that you've got paper and it's expensive, but if you stress about it so much, it's better to just start painting. Now that can be some trees and that through here. So I'm just going to go back for the green. Put some of the red in it. I think it's nice with the Australian red gold in it, that it greys it down a little bit. It's not as brassy. The brush is dry now, and so I'm going to come up higher and just start to get some sort of foliage in through here and turn that into a section that will have trees in there. Maybe leaning a little bit that way, so I'll come over, go a little bit darker, come over here and just get other trees in there. So that'll be a group of trees. I will turn these upside down to do the branches on those. And so maybe these could have some sort of foliage on them, sort of leaning out into the artwork. Just push the brush onto the paper. We've got other bits and pieces here. From there, this has got something in there that it's starting to look different, but I don't think I'll touch it. I think I'll leave it there. I'll actually get some shadows underneath the rocks, and that's ultramarine and burnt sienna. And that would have just back shadows underneath some of these rocks. Just some shadows underneath. Just something to lift them off the page. Don't do absolutely everything. Leave something that people have got to look at the work. That just does something in through there as well. Okay, so with the rigger, I am going to go upside down now and turn the page so that it then can be upside down for me to do some work upside down. So that turns around. Now these artworks done with a palette knife are very bright, so if it was painted realistically with just ordinary watercolour, it wouldn't be as bright as this. It can be bright, but it doesn't necessarily need to be bright. I'll get a bigger rigger. I've got a wider rigger now. And so now I can come through there and work out what is going to happen. So on the grass trees, there's the branch, which is in just a browny sort of colour. And so I'm just going to come up through there with one of the tops of that and put the top on it. They have seeds in those, in the top section. There's another one here. Do different heights. That's too wet. You notice it just run, but it could stay nice and soft, which is good. There's this one here. That's got one there, but I'll do one beside it that's much taller and be darker. So I just picked up more dark. That'll go right over the top of that. Put something on that one. And I'll just touch it with the tissue because it's standing out way too much. But just touch it. That'll just soften it. There was a tree coming out through here sideways. I've changed to the smaller rigger liner, but I need to go back to the larger one. Now as it comes forward, it comes out of there, could come out both ways and just come out through and put some foliage on that tree. And also some of the bits and pieces on through here. There's a rock that's got a grass tree through it. So I'm going to have to do another grass tree as if it's a long way out of the page and the grass tree's there. So that you see that part of the grass tree and it's closer to you because it's in front. The trees over here, they need the foliage and branches and that on them. The little trees that I did up the right way, I'm going to come back, probably with the finer brush, have it not too wet. And so now I can come through here and do some better work because the rigger works better and it can actually come down further, have branches, bits and pieces, and it's just rubbish through there. It's just the brush dancing through the page. Don't like that at the top, but I can take it out later if I really don't like it. And so there's trees and that coming up through here, branches, bits and pieces joining up. Again, back out this way, there can be a tree going that way. And so now, and I think I'll come over that bottom section. That would make a really tall tree. It'd have to join up with that one, but they're all leaning the other way. So I'm going to bring this one back to come up through there and off the page. Just again, bits and pieces along the edge. I just wet the brush now and just let that happen along the edge in different bits and pieces. Just scrapey bits on the page. Now turn it around and see what I actually did. Because I can't see upside down, it's the better way to actually do something on an artwork. So having a look at it, what's good and what's not good, because I can just get my brush, see what I don't like. I didn't like that, just take it off. Just damp it with a damp brush and just keep working across it. It'll actually lift. Some of the other colour around it will dampen the brush and it will go on that. You eventually won't see it. This one should come down into the actual grass tree. And so you can see it coming down. And remember I did this one. So that one could have one coming up that way. They don't all come up straight. So that one now is coming up sideways. They need to look like they're quite strong because they fill out and go really tall. That one's just okay, it's very light. This one's not good. So it could be a lot taller and a lot darker. That'll just fill in. And there's a couple of things that I can see that I would change. Some of the bits and pieces under these rocks. Those darks are just too strong and they can come up round the rock. If I just touch the rock with water, they'll soften and just come up underneath the rock, so you don't see the halo around the back of them. That halo, that can come round and just soften. That's a pretty rock. Okay, so now I've got some foreground in the artwork where when I first started, it had no foreground. It doesn't have a lot in the middle ground, but I was going to actually come along there and put something underneath that to straighten it up. And that was just a little bit of burnt sienna, and that'll just come along there and just get some dark underneath that. That'll look like it's got a road through there. I hope you've enjoyed that. Happy painting. On reflection, after the tape's been removed from my artwork, I have an idea that this grass tree is actually taking your eye. There's another branch that's coming off the page, so I think a great idea would be to actually take this one off the page as well. So that then has another section coming into there, so it's not just taking the focus to there, it may take the focus back off that. So what I'm going to do is pick up the rigger again, the larger rigger, and come across that again with the burnt sienna and ultramarine. That's my darks. Always use that as my darks. I have my greens here, Winsor yellow, French ultramarine and indethrin, and my darks are always burnt sienna and ultramarine, and also indethrin if I want it darker again. So they're the colours that I use as a staple in the palette that's always got those dark colours there. So the tree would look really good if it come back round this way and then up through there. So I'll just get another section onto it. And so the tree then has something coming back off that edge, and also a little bit of rubbish around this one could help to not have just that one single one coming up through the edge there. That could have some foliage on the top, but I'll turn it around and have a look and see what I actually created. And so now that branch is coming out and balances back, coming away from the fact that there's something coming in. It also looks like there's water in through here. I could pick up that line and that would make it definite, but it's really interesting if you've got artworks that people can look at and they can look through it and see something themselves rather than me tell them that that's exactly what's there. I'll take off the tape after I just look at this again. Just look at the bottom of this trunk and make it wider so it's going onto the ground. And do I need foliage on the top there? The answer is maybe, but if I do, that will make that tree come off here and be larger if I did do the foliage on top. So I'm just going to pick up some green and come up higher for that one. And that then makes it look like, because it's off the page, that it's a larger tree. Just put some over there as well, just so it's got something anchoring it to the page over that rock. There's a lot of rocks going on here, maybe a little bit over that. Other than that, it'll be over painted, so I shall stop. And that's the finished artwork using a palette knife.